You put the beer in the coconut and drink it all up. You put the beer in the coconut and...
Today we're bringing Homer Simpson's coconut beer. It's an actual beer made from scratch with real hops, real grain, and spoiler alert, it's one of the best we've ever done. Also, Homebrew is unfortunately still dying, and we snuck a dirty stoner joke into a full-page magazine ad. All that and more in this video, so buckle up. Alright, a year ago I made a video stating the fact that homebrewing is dying. Actual data. And just a few weeks ago, Brew Your Own, homebrewing's leading magazine for nearly 30 years, announced that it would cease its print edition. Emmett and I used to subscribe to this magazine, but when we launched our own homebrewing equipment 7 years ago, the equipment that we're using to make the beer in this video, we never advertised it in magazines like this. And in hindsight, it might have been a huge mistake. And I'm gonna tell you all about it. But before that, let's get this beer rolling. We already have 8.5 gallons of water in the kettle, so all we need to do right now is get our ingredients ready, add half a tablet of Campden to the kettle, and let the controller dial in the mash temperature of 156 degrees. So the only real advertising we ever did was a full-page joke, which we snuck into the Zymergy magazine. It was an ad for our brewing system, but on the face of the controller were the numbers 69 and 420, which we thought was hilarious, but the reaction we got from it made us never want to advertise in print media again. And I'll tell you why in a second. But the water is ready, so we need to mill our grain and pop it in the kettle. By the way, we are using Southern Select Regenified Base Malt by Riverbend, which I guess is from a sustainable farm or something, so we can think even more highly of ourselves when we're drinking this beer, which would be nice. We're also using Victory Aromatic, Golden Naked, Great Shit, and Pale Chocolate. The full recipe is on our website. Once you're done milling the grain, preferably with our sweet Climber grain mill, and you add the milled grain to your kettle, make sure you be very thorough when you stir it in. You don't want any balls of dough hanging around. Get everything stirred up with your mash paddle, and once you're done with that, you're gonna just leave it hang out for 60 minutes. This is called the mash if you're new to brewing, and during this period, enzymes in the malt will break down all of the starch into grain, turning it into sugar. So the magazine we ran the ad in was Zymergy, and it was a full-page ad for our brewing system. As I said, I photoshopped the numbers 69 and 420 on the face of the controller, mostly because it just looked weird to me with nothing on the controller when we made the ad. We thought it would be really funny to just put 69 and 420 on the controller. The problem, like I said, was the reaction, and specifically, there was no reaction. Nobody ever mentioned the numbers on the controller, not the editors, but none of the readers. Nobody ever called or emailed or mentioned it who saw the ad. But more importantly, we saw no meaningful boost in sales. So I believe that's the last magazine ad we ever ran. Instead, we decided to embrace the new digital world and run Google ads. Speaking of mistakes, this was literally a $60,000 disaster, and I'll tell you all about that in a second as well. But first, we need to get back to this beer. The mash is done now, so we have a bunch of spent grain and sugary water, but we're gonna be Eagle Scouts today and go the extra mile. We're gonna do what's called a mash out. That's where you heat the kettle temperature up to 170 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you leave it sit for 10 to 20 minutes at this temperature before pulling the grain. This will improve your mash efficiency a bit. It also provides you a bit of an excuse to just hang out and do some other stuff, like perhaps drink a beer or two. So what I'm gonna do is take a little field trip out to my vein, which contains a refrigerator, which contains beer. Listen, if you don't have a refrigerator in your car or truck or van or whatever, you need to revisit your priorities because it's pretty sweet. So we're gonna be drinking a bunch of really dark stouts today to get inspired for this coconut brown ale. I found several coconut stout options at Burial, our local brewery, and I also got an espresso beer for Libby, which I think may have been a bit too much for her because after she drank them, she walked off camera and then engaged in incognito mode. Why do you have your hood up, Libby?
Why do you have your sunglasses on?
Why do you have your hood up and your sunglasses on? I will admit it is an aggressive option to switch from coffee to coffee stout with no breakfast before noon. Okay, so like I said, at one point we spent literally $60,000 on Google Ads and it did not work out. And you might be thinking, wow, that's a lot of money. These guys must be rich. 60K must just be pocket change to them. And you'd be completely wrong about both. That is a massive sum of money to us. And the unfortunate, nerve-wracking reality is that there is no standard playbook for a small business like ours, a small homebrew equipment supply company. A lot of what we do is just educated gambling. And sometimes it works out and I go on vacation. Other times it doesn't and I wake up in the middle of the night with panic attacks. Google Ads work for a lot of people. They just didn't work for us the way we were doing them. Our sales actually did increase, but at the end of the day, the bottom line remained the same. So we did a lot more work to make the same amount of money. And we're like, you know what? Nah, we could have made the same amount of money just being way more chill about it, and that's kind of how we do things now. In fact, there's only one place that we still do advertise, and we probably lose money there as well, but at least I can feel good about losing that money, and that's why I do it, which I will tell you about here in just 1 second. But before that, let's get back to the beer. Once the grains are out of the kettle and the liquid has been heated to a boil, you want to add some bittering hops. We're using Northern Brewer hops because somebody thought it would be a good idea to use a hop variety that shares the same exact name as our biggest competitor. So chill out, hang out, drink some beer, and then 30 minutes from when you added the first edition, add another ounce of hops. This time you're gonna add some Willamette hops, 1 ounce, and then you'll let it hang out for another 20 minutes, preferably while you're drinking more beer and maybe even eating some tacos. And then you will add another ounce of Willamette. Also at this point, add a Whirlflac tablet if you have one. If any of this is confusing, remember this. The only real requirement is at this point you drink some beer and eat some tacos because this is supposed to be fun. If you're worried about screwing this up, go to our website for recipe details, and we're also going to sell this as a recipe kit, which you can pick up on our website as well. The kit will come with all the ingredients you'll need for this brew day, and it will come with detailed instructions. Oh, and if you do get the recipe kit, don't drink too many beers while you're boiling because you might want to toast your coconut. Our recipe kit will come with coconut, but it's not toasted. If you want to toast it like we're doing, I would recommend not using a chef's torch. It's actually pretty easy to burn the coconut with the torch, and burnt coconut actually tastes horrible. Instead, I would recommend using an oven. So set it to 325 degrees if you're neared, or if you're like me and you're cool, set it to 375. It'll be just fine, just keep an eye on it. Once it looks nice and golden brown, pull it out of the oven, give it a quick stir, and then put it back in to toast a little bit longer. Do this 3 or 4 times until you have a nice even brown coating on all of the coconut. And by the way, we are live streaming every brew day, well, until we decide not to. So if you want to check these out, at a bare minimum, go to our channel and click the subscribe button so you get notified when we go live. And if you really want to support us, become a member. We spend more money on these YouTube videos than the YouTube videos actually make, which is something I'll be talking about in an upcoming video. And speaking of supporting organizations that you love, the last place we currently advertise is on the Brewlosophy podcast. They're the biggest, coolest beer nerds on the planet, and we advertise with them because I'm just a huge fan of what they do. Marshall, their founder, is an absolute genius for what he's done with that organization. I love Martin over on their brewing channel, and I think that perhaps outside of r/homebrewing on Reddit, Brewlosophy is the best resource for the hobby of homebrewing, period. I'm happy to support them with my wallet, even if we're not making a ton of money for that, or even if we're not making any money at all. All right, let's fast forward to the rest of this brew day so we get to the tasting. At the end of the 60-minute boil, cut the heat, chill the liquid down to 170 degrees Fahrenheit, preferably with a counterflow chiller, which looks like this. You can find them on our website. I would recommend not using a plate chiller for this. I've used a plate chiller for coconut beers in the past and have gotten away with it, but you're gambling at that point because you might jam it up. Anyway, once you're down to 170, add the coconut to the kettle and leave it hang out in the kettle for 10 to 20 minutes. During that time, get your fermenter ready. We're using one of our keg fermenters with a floating dip tube, which is nice because we'll be able to serve right out of this keg once it's done. We won't have to transfer it. We're beta testing a new floating dip tube. We don't carry this one just yet, but for the time being, our current dip tube works great, which you can find at clawhammersupply.com. That's right, we sell things and we use the money we make to pay for upgrades to our video editor's office, like these awesome string lights and these cool hue bulbs. Listen y'all, Libby really wants a coat rack in this office, so if you go to our website and buy a floating dipper, maybe even two, we'll get her one, I promise. Okay, once the coconut has finished steeping, chill the liquid the rest of the way down to room temperature. About 70 degrees is what you're looking for. Transfer the liquid to a keg or a fermenter of some sort, and then aerate it by hitting it with some oxygen or just shake it for a few minutes. They'll do the same exact thing. After that, add an airlock of some sort. We are using a spunding valve. I'm going to be setting it to the lowest possible pressure because this is an ale, and then set the keg aside somewhere out of the way. Leave it hang out for a couple of weeks while fermentation does its thing, and then after that, cool the entire thing down, hit it with some CO2, and invite some friends over to taste it. The theme of the video is that we did that joke ad.
What?
Didn't work.
Defaulted back to YouTube, because that's all we know.
Pretty much is all we can do.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're not even good at that.
No.
Somehow it still works.
People are worse than us.
Yeah. That's our saving grace, is that somehow there are people out there dumber than we are.
Carb, huh?
It's fine. You know what? It's not, but there's a reason for that.
Oh, it's got some carbonation.
It does. It has some.
It's brown.
It's brown and it smells kind of brown. Not as clear as I thought it would be. A little bit of coconut.
A little sweetness. Cheers, man.
Cheers. That is delightful.
That's A-okay. It's a lot drier than I thought it'd be, and not in a bad way. I taste coconut, and I'm assuming toasting it probably did bring out roasty, toasty. Coconut, I wouldn't say I pick up toasty, I just pick up a really nice coconut flavor. I like an undercarb beer.
Speaking of,
Oh, hey now.
no, there's some
Bubbles for your troubles.
carbonation. Yeah, I thought it would be a little bit more carbed up than it is, but I'm glad that it's not. It smells completely different.
Yeah, it does. It's way sweeter.
I can say I like the way that this smells much better than the carbonation.
Okay, so this isn't dirty glass. It's just yeah. 'Cause this smells really sweet. This kind of smells like dirty.
Yeah, it just doesn't smell good. It's not doing anything for it. Try it out.
Breaks out the bitterness.
It's so much more bitter. And it's because carbonation provides a lot of bitterness. Carbonic acid.
Is that it? Yeah. Carbonic. I'd probably like something in between, maybe a little bit more than this, maybe like a cast out, but I enjoy a lightly carbonated, especially in a darker beer.
You can't taste the coconut as much in this.
Is that the only difference?
The only difference is same exact beer, I just carbonated that more.
Yeah, it's very astringent compared to that.
Do a little mixy. That might be where it's at.
Yeah, I think now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like 8 to 10 PSI on this, and
Yeah, something like
let
that.
it sit for a week and drink it.
Yeah, we got a winner here, folks. This is available as a recipe kit on our website, so check it out. And also, BYO is still in business. They're not printing their magazine anymore, but they do have a digital subscription. And if you sign up for the digital subscription, this is not an ad for them, by the way. I just read into it, and it seems like a pretty good deal to me. You get access to 30 years of back issues that
that's cool.
have been digitized, I do believe, and then a ton of recipes. So that seems like kind of a good deal to me.
That's a great archive. It's nice they're doing that.
So good luck to them, and I hope they continue doing what they do. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.